Hi, this is James from Tabletop Gaming Guild, and today we're going to take a look at Fort. Fort is a 2 to 4 player game designed by Grant Roderick and published by Leader Games. In this game, you're going to be trying to get the most stuff, build the best fort, and basically be kids. You're going to need to manage your hand really well because you don't want your friends to go off and check out your opponent's fort and their cool hideout. Let's go ahead down to the table here. I'm going to give you a general overview of how to play the game. Then we're going to come back and I'm going to give you my final thoughts. All right, so this is Fort. Fort's going to be a 2 to 4 player game. It takes about 20 to 40 minutes to play. In this game, you're a kid, and like many kids, you want to grow your circle of friends. Grab a bunch of pizza and toys and build the best fort. Naturally, by doing cool stuff, you're going to earn some cool victory points. And at the end of the game, the player with the most victory points is going to be the winner. So how do you first set up the game? The setup for the game is pretty darn easy. Basically, you're going to give a reference card to each player. You're going to figure out who you want to have the first player. You get the first player card to them. You're going to get this cool dual layer board. You'll give one to each player. You can go up to 4 players here. You're going to get this little marker here, the little fort marker. You're going to put it on the 0. And on the back of this card, before you put it on 0, there's going to be 2 best friends that you're going to pull out. Now, these 2 best friends, all the friends will have stars. Those don't belong in the deck, so you're going to pull these out and not have them show up in that deck regardless of player count. So you get your 2 best friends, and then you're going to deal out 8 cards to each player. You will also put out the scoring track and put their little scoring markers on the 0 here. You're going to put out 1 perk per player plus 1. So if there's 4 players, it's going to be 5 perks. The rest will go in the box. And for these made-up rules here, which are like bonus cards, you're going to put out 1 plus the number of players. So if you had a 4-player game, you're going to put 5 of them out. You're also going to place out this macaroni sculpture here, and you're going to be able to take this. If you're able to take this at the end of the game, you're going to score 4 points. And that is basically the setup. Super easy to set up the game. Now, if you're going to play with the advanced rules, you're not going to have your friends in there, the ones with the stars, but you're going to draft these 8 cards. So if you're having someone that has never played this game before, probably best to just deal out the 8 cards. But if you're going to draft, you're going to do a normal draft where you're going to pick one, pass the rest to your left, and then continue until you have 8 cards, and then you can start the game. You're going to shuffle up this deck here to start the game. So we'll shuffle up this deck, and you're going to draw 5 cards. Everyone's going to start with 5 cards in their hand. Now each player is going to take their turn in turn order. So your first one is going to be discard your yard. Your second one's going to be play a single card from your hand of potentially 5 cards. Now there's going to be a lot of different symbols in this game here that you're going to run into, and they are described on your player reference sheet here that you get with the game, and they are pretty straightforward. Just remember, if it has an X, you have to pay. If it doesn't have an X, you gain. This +1 fort here allows you to increase your fort level. So a card like this here would let me increase my fort level. And we'll go over that in a second. But the big thing on here is there's going to be a public and a private. If you have the little icon here, that's private, and then that's public. Now you have to complete one of these fully. But you can do both, and you can do one partially if you want. You don't have to do the public action. You could just do the private, or you could just do the public and not do the private, or you can do both. Now, you can do these in any order. So this one here would be increase your fort. If you wanted to increase your fort, you have to pay. So on your fort here, you're going to have these little icons. And there's 2 resources in the game. There's going to be toys and pizza. The pizza is orange and the toys are blue. If it's blank like this, it can be any 2 that you want. Here, you'd have to pay a pizza, a toy, and any one you want, and they just go up from there. So if I have this raise the fort level, I can bring it up, and these will give you more victory points at the end of the game. So wherever it's at the end, you'll get those points. So there's 1 point, 3 point, 9 points, 16 points, and 23 points. So that's your private action. Your public action here, if you ever see this, it's going to be times. So you can put a person in your lookout for however many shovels you have. So if I have this card down, I'll have 1 shovel, and I can put a lookout, so I can pick one of these cards and I can put them in here. Now your lookout and your backpack are controlled by your fort level, so it's whatever your fort level is plus 1. Right now my fort level is 0, so I can hold 1 lookout and I can hold 1 item in my backpack. The lookout is nice because that's going to give you a permanent icon that you can use for the game. So this is going to be a great one to use because this is going to be the any icon I want, so the wild card. And these are some of the other icons that are available in the game. You can see them up on this chart too. There's going to be 6 different types and then the wild. So there's going to be a lot of different things you can do. Like here you can build onto your fort and you gain 2 victory points. Here you get to take a item from someone else's backpack. That's what this frowny face means. If you ever see the frowny face, that means take from your opponent. Otherwise, like this one here, I get to trash a card. Now, anytime you trash a card, that actually goes back into the box. So they're removed from the game. Here, I get to get any 2 resources I want. They have to be the same. And that'll get into the public objectives here. So if I pick this one, I have to have room in my stuff. If I don't have room in my stuff for whichever one I pick, I can't do it. I could partially do this action if I completed this one down fully, so I could take 1. Now, if anyone follows this, they're going to have to use the same icon that I did. And I will pick with this wild what it is. I'll say shovel. So if someone plays a shovel, they'll be able to do this too. But they have to select the same thing that I did if I selected a type. If I didn't select anything, they can still do that public action and they can get which of the same 2 that they want. Another rule in here too is if you're doing this multiplication action, you can't boost it more than you can actually complete it. So if I can only put 1 lookout out here, I can't put 2 shovels in here. It's really important because you are trying to shed these cards throughout the game. And you can follow, like I said, other players' turns, and you may not have cards on your turn, so you may not actually do the play 1 card action if you can't. But that prevents you from being able to just basically get rid of cards before you get to the discard section. The next thing you can do is you can recruit 1 card from any yard or the park and add it to your discard pile. Now, one thing I did forget to do during setup here is you have to set up your park. So don't forget to do that. You're going to put 3 cards out to do that. All right, so I could grab a card from the park if I want. I can grab a card from a player's yard if I want. Or I can grab a card from the top of the deck. I'm going to pull this down so it doesn't look like it's in my yard. I would take that card, whatever I wanted, and put it into my discard pile. If I took it from the yard, I would refill it for the next player's turn. All right, so that's recruit. The next thing you can do is you can discard cards. So you're going to discard any cards with a star on it. So if I have any friends of mine, which I have 1, and if I didn't play it, I would discard it because it's never going to go into my yard. My best friends are never going to leave me. Then I'm going to place, if I didn't play any of these, I place the rest of these cards in my yard for everyone to see. And they can actually, when you're doing the recruit phase, can steal these cards from me and put them in their discard pile. So you probably don't want your best cards to actually show up in this pile, so you want to try to figure out how to get rid of them before that happens. And the last thing you're going to do on your turn is you're going to draw 5 cards. And you're ready to go. You can let the next player go, and that's it. So how does the game end? Well, the game can end in 3 different ways. If anyone hits this 25-point marker here, or scores, the game will end. Everyone will have equal amounts of turns, so you'll figure out who is the first player and just make sure everyone had equal number of turns. The game will end, and the person with the most points will win. However, the other way is if this park deck runs out. So if the deck itself runs out, even if this has stuff, the game will trigger. The other way is if anyone ever gets to level 5 on their fort. If they get to level 5 on their fort, that will also trigger the end of the game. And you get points from a couple different ways. So you'll get your points from the victory point track. You'll get your points for your fort level here. And if you complete your fort first, you'll get the macaroni sculpture that will give you some points. And if you get some cards out that will let you get some of these made up rules here, you will be able to gain points for those made up rules at the end of the game. The person with the highest score will win the game. If there's a tie, the tie player with the highest fort level will win. If it's still tied, the players share the victory. Now, there's some really cool things in this game that I just briefly went over how to play. You can get started with this. Just a couple rules to remember is that when you are adding, you can't go over your stuff level. If you have to complete something fully and you don't have room, you won't be able to complete it fully. So this is the max. You can have your 4 toys and you can have your 4 pizzas. That's the number that you can have in the game of each of these. However, some of them give you backpack actions. You can put some in your backpack. If you put some in your backpack here, they can only carry the level of your fort +1. So this is 0 + 1, so I can only have 1. When you're spending things to get things, you can spend them out of your backpack or your stuff level right here. So these backpacks are very useful for that. Also, you can have different cards that give you points and other things based on what's in your backpack, which is really cool. Or you can copy out of your backpack. So if this didn't have the frowny face on it here and it was just like that, you would actually copy what was in your backpack and you can get that in your stuff. Additionally, like I said, your lookout is really powerful. You can actually put, this is 1 card is the limit, not how many icons, so you can use these. Rule for these guys, though, is if you're ever using them to follow or you're using them to boost anything, at least one of the icons needs to match what's required. Now, this one happens to have a wild on the crown, but some of them will have like 2 crowns or whatever, 2 water guns. One of the icons needs to match. And again, you can't overpay for anything. That's very, very important in this game. You can't add more icons than you are able to take that action for. That's very important. You can also pick up these perks in the game, and these perks will help you out after you finish, like this do-over, after you finish playing a card, including any rivals following. You may trash this card and play a second card. So you can get these pretty cool perks throughout the game. There's cards that do that. There's a lot of icons in this game, but thankfully this sheet basically will easily tell you what everything does here. These are really important. So this is per then, and these are going to reduce or increase the amount of resources you need to have things. This is one of the more important ones for fort. Because you want to build up that level. It can be worth a lot of points. Getting rid of cards is really important. The one with the arrow here means the card that you're playing. Again, the frowny face means your opponent. So this one, you can get rid of one of your opponent's cards from the game, which is pretty mean, but you know, can be really helpful. This one is recruit a card, which is not in a whole lot of cards, but that is also very helpful. This any one suit that you can pick from here, you do have to declare what the suit's going to be. This is going to be cards in your lookout. This is backpack resources, either adding to or copying from. And these are, like I said, the different suits that you have in the game. So it is a relatively straightforward game with really cool deck building twist to it. Let's go ahead back up to the table here and I'll give you my final thoughts on Fort. All right, so that was Fort. Now we're going to start off with component quality. Component quality is amazing in this card game. I love the nice thick player boards that you have on there. The cards are great quality, and the pizza and toy tokens are really nice little wooden discs. So I really like that a lot. I think that the art on this game, I really like it. I think it gives me like that sandboxy type cartoonish feel on there. Really like that a lot. The gameplay, this game isn't just a deck builder. I love deck builders. I love deck building games. But this one adds a really cool hand management portion of that game where I only get the one action what do I need to do to dump the cards that are in my hand as efficiently as possible and be able to build up that fort or put something in the lookout or get points, just basically the best way possible, with keeping in mind that I don't want to give out some of my cards to other players. So I really like that depth of strategy that you get in the game from not just like, hey, I'm going to do the most efficient thing. I might not want to do the most efficient thing because I may be giving you an amazing card. I may want to do something moderately efficient and keep that card. And you would think that that wouldn't be less exciting in the game, but it's actually more exciting in the game when you can do something really cool, because everything's really cool and fun in this game, really lighthearted. And also be able to deny your opponents like one of the cards in your hand that's super good. Or, you know, place out a card that you already know they have a ton that do the same. You're like, yeah, you're not going to want this card. It's a lot of fun, and there's a lot of interactivity in this game just from that. You're also looking at what your opponents are doing on their turn. Like, please put out a card that is really cool, that does the strategy or engine I'm trying to build on there so I can take that from you. So, really cool. I really love that mechanism, and I think that's great. Also, it says that you could do the advanced rule in there where you do the drafting. If you have people that are not like brand new to gaming, I would just do that all the time. Just do the drafting thing all the time. Now, if you have a super experienced player playing for it and brand new players who've never played it before, maybe for that first game you don't do it. But in general, that drafting is really nice. I think that is a great element in the game. And, you know, if you teach the rules pretty well before the game starts, it's not going to be that big of an issue to do it, and it does add more player activity, and it also helps you out a lot with the getting your hand going and getting the game going faster. So I really do like that a lot. So overall, this is a really great deck building game. So if you're looking for medium light, I know people throw out these weights or whatever, but it's not super light. There's going to be some mechanics in there that people who haven't played too many games are going to have to learn. So that's why I give it the medium light sort of rating on there. In the future, I'm going to post on our site what we consider light, medium light, heavy, whatnot. Maybe even make a scale. But this is going to be a fairly easy game to teach with a couple of mechanics on there that may be new to people and may take a little bit of time to learn, but not very difficult. So you can teach new people to play it. People who've played deck building games before are going to fall right into this game and be able to play it pretty quickly. So highly recommend Fort if you're looking for a fun, fast, relatively easy game to teach. And that's my thoughts on it. Thank you for watching.